Hey guys, Codicius here, bringing you another Dominations video. Today I want to talk to you about the three most important units in the barracks at my level. I'm going to go over tanks, artillery, and infantry. Yes, I said infantry. We will talk about how many is too many or too few for a composition. Remember, at the end of the day, these are all my opinions. One more thing to remember is that the things that I will be covering will be the default stats. This is the unit without, library books or any of those extra includes, that can, like for instance, the artillery costs 10. It could cost 9 if you had a certain book complete. So we're going to talk about them just as their raw form. Alright, so we're going to jump into this, and the first one we're going to talk about today is going to be the tank. You get the tank whenever your cavalry becomes level 6 in the industrial age. The tank is going to start out with a whopping health of 12,000. It has a DPS of 300, but its DPS versus resource is 90. Its range is of 3, so that's respectable. It costs about 4k to create one. Now tanks are, designed, their favorite target is going to be the defensive buildings. That's your cannons, your readouts, your mortars, etc., etc. So that's what it's going to go after. That's what it favors. Its training time is going to be 3.5 minutes on one of those, and its troop space to start out is going to be 10. The tank looks good, looks pretty solid. But now the weaknesses of the tank are going to be that it's anti-tank towers, cannon towers, ballistas, etc., etc., and that the tank has on average pretty low damage. What is the role of the tank? Well, it's in the name. The tank is to soak up the damage to, tank per se. Now, the way that you want to use the tank is obviously at the front of the line. You want it to go in and soak up the damage. But how many tanks is too many tanks? How many tanks is overkill per se? Well, it really depends on how many men you can hold. Right now in my composition, I can hold 135 men. So I don't really ever carry more than 2 tanks. Now, a lot of you might think that's crazy, because, tanks are great, mechanized armies, etc., etc. But that doesn't fit my playstyle. I'm very Blitzkrieg style player. I'm very in your face. I'm going to go in and deal the damage. So the tank to me is a viable unit, but its downfall is that it doesn't have much damage, and that if you were to do a full mechanized assault with no infantry or any type of support with it, it's going to be pretty piss poor if you're there to get resources, because 90 damage against resources just isn't nothing. I don't know how many times you've seen a tank or a horseman per se sit there and just whack away at a mill all day and get nothing. Another downfall of the tank, in my opinion, is that it struggles against walls. It has big issues getting through walls, and because of that, I've had my tanks, because my infantry had been destroyed, just sit at the wall and pluck away, but never get anywhere. So overall, the tank is a good unit. I don't feel that it's good by itself. Unlike the heavy cavalry back in Dominations heyday, it was a great unit to be using. I remember just doing full heavy cavalry raids and just running over bases. It was fun. As long as you took out the ballista, it was a good day. That doesn't work anymore. There's too many walls. So you need support with the tank. But we're going to jump into the next one. And the next one we're going to talk about is going to be the artillery. Artillery is what the ballista turns into, but you don't actually get artillery until level 4. Artillery starts out with 630 health. It has a damage per second of 489. Its range is 5. Now, its favorite target is going to be the nearest thing to it, nearest building, whether that be a mill, a cannon, a gold pile, anything. Whatever it is, whatever's closest, it's going to take it out. That's what it does. Now, the training cost of the artillery is 13,500. Its training time is 16 minutes. It has a default troop space of 10 without any extras, and its weakness is enemy troops. Now, the artillery is a crucial part anymore in this game, in my opinion. I really can't see victory happening anymore without the artillery. Let's not say you can't, but I'm talking like, for big hitters. Yeah, I could take just my infantry and go and hit like, a medieval age guy. But if you're talking, Enlightenment, industrial, global, artillery is a must. You have to have it in there, and without it, you're just not going to get anywhere. Now, artillery is a fantastic unit. My problem with the artillery is that beyond war, and if you're trophy climbing, this unit should not be used. The reason being is it has a training cost of 13,500. So, for let's say you only use 2. Well, that's going to end up being 27,000 food. Let's say the base you're going for is 150,000. Well, then you can just go ahead and knock that down to 123,000 because you used 2 artillery, and you have to, if you lose them, That's saying if you lose them, then you have to create those units again. With that being said, I feel the cost of the artillery is just too much to really be taken into raids. Like I said, this is just for raiding. Now, beyond that, the artillery should be in every composition. It is needed, but how many are too many? Well, I mean, it has a troop space of 10. Now, granted, if you do a few of the books, you can get it down to 9. But then even then you're talking, for 3 that's 27 spots, for 4 that's 36 spots. And then, that the resources add up. So, the artillery, in my opinion, and this is just an opinion, you should not really ever have more than 4 in your group, because it gets to where the resource risk isn't worth the gain, especially if you have nothing there to support the artillery. The other huge weakness of the artillery is that it is completely defenseless, and this is my problem with people saying that infantry is useless. Because it's all grand and all that this thing can sit out there and pick off shit, but what about the spawners from the forest that are going to spawn right behind that artillery and completely wipe it out because it won't defend itself? I also think it's just goofy to see that thing scooting across the battlefield on its own with nobody pushing it or anything. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of disturbing. I wish Dominations, even if he doesn't do anything, I wish Dominations would just go in and push, put 2 dudes in it, pushing it across the battlefield. It's just annoying. But, it's just nitpicking. Like I said, artillery is a great unit, but I feel alone it's pretty useless, and I'm pretty sure we can all agree on that. The next one that we're going to talk about is my personal favorite unit in the game, and that's the infantry, the shock infantry. You don't get shock infantry till level 9 of the whenever you can upgrade your troops in the industrial age. They start out with a health of 458. They have a damage per second of 208. Versus defenses, it's 52. Now they have a range of 1.5. Their favorite target is any, so it's almost like the artillery, except for the artillery is not really going to target down troops unless you actually tactical on those troops. It's just going to pick off whatever is closest to it. Its training cost is 460, and it has a default of 35 seconds per troop training time and a space of 1. Now those training times can be manipulated, through nations and different, what is it, the War Academy and tactics and things. You can manipulate it. Sorry, I got hung up there. The weakness of the infantry is, other infantry being, riflemen and different infantry that spawn out of the city, mortars and readouts. Now, a lot of you are going to look at that, and because about a year ago there was an infantry nerf because the Romans were on a warpath that nobody could keep up with. But whenever you look at the infantry, a lot of people overlook it for the more fancy units, the better units, and because a lot of the units haven't been nerfed. A lot of you are going to argue with me in the comments below that the infantry sucks. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not true. The reason the infantry is good, and the reason that you think the infantry sucks, is because you don't know how to use it. If you actually use the infantry the way that I've been using it in the attacks that I've been showing you, I don't ever drop my infantry in just one big blob and say go. And a lot of people do that. And a lot of people won't admit to it because, I can't get the infantry to work for me. Well, that's because you're letting it die to, area splash units like the mortars, the readouts, and, the troop mortar. So if you look at the attacks that I'm showing you, all the infantry that I deployed as a single line. The reason I do that is I use the infantry as meat shields to actually keep my artillery and keep my tanks and all my Gatling guns and my rifles and keep them going, because every second that an infantryman isn't dealing damage is a second that you're potentially losing that attack. So you want to keep the infantry going, but also they're there to take the hit. That way your artillery can deliver the hit that's needed to that readout that's chopping up your infantry. If you learn to play infantry right, I'll be honest with you, I can't really see a situation where you can't win the attack. But how many infantry is too much? Well, my composition, which I'll show you guys actually at the end of this, is 135 men, as I've told you. And I use about 41 infantry in my composition. And a lot of people look at that and go, whoa, that's too risky, that's too much. It's not true if you know how to use it. Because I'm actually taking my men and spreading them out. And I'm using them to the best of their potential. They're great units. Give them another try. Really sit down and try to make the infantry work for you. And another piece of advice I can give you that isn't exactly fitting to what we're talking about here is that whenever you create a composition, the best advice I can give anyone is to start out at the bottom. Make the backbone of what this composition is going to be. In my opinion, it's going to be infantry. I'm going to have infantry in there. They're the backbone. They're the thing that's going to keep the war machine moving. Secondly, decide what is this composition for. Is it for war? Is it for just going out and raiding and getting resources to help my city grow quickly? Figure out what you're building that composition for. And third, try to understand why you have created this composition. If it is for war, then what tools are needed for war? Well, obviously, we know the artillery is needed because it's going to get deep within the base. The tanks are needed because they're going to suck up the damage, for the infantry. Now, at the end of the day, like I said, these are all opinions, and you can agree or you can disagree, but I'm really just trying to give everyone information about the game to try to help guys out and get you away from just the two-dimensional, thought process that is dominations for a lot of people. Like, oh, I got an army comp of 135. Well, I guess I'll take 6 artillery and 3 tanks. And then, 4 infantry? And then people, sit there and bitch about how infantry sucks, but they're only using 4. Well, no crap, it's going to suck. It's not going to do anything. Use it the way it's instructed to be. Use it as infantry has always been used, in mass quantities. But I'm going to go ahead and end this, so that about wraps it up for this video. Until next time, don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember, like always, these are my opinions and what works for me. This has been Codicius. See ya.